Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new season of Young Americans Abroad, where we still give you the best weekly content on young American soccer players playing overseas. My name is Austin Van Churen.
And my name is Patrick Ferry.
And welcome to our show. Well, guys, we're back for season 3, and we got a lot of transfers to discuss today, Pat. Isn't that right?
That's right, Austin. It's good to be back for all you YAA viewers. We're really excited to cover this great content with so many moves happening abroad. Very exciting moves, Austin.
That's right. And the first one that we're really excited to discuss is a player over in France transferring over to a Champions League team. So that's really exciting.
It's awesome news, Austin. And also exciting U.S. men's national team goalkeeper returning to Germany to make things right and dominate.
That's right. And we have a new USMNT player who made the move to a Turkish giant over the summer. So, all that and more in this episode.
All right, guys. So to start off season 3, we're going to head over to France and talk about that player, that starlet, that made that exciting move over to another French club that plays in the Champions League, and which my colleague Austin over here kindly pointed out in the intro. And that is none other than Tim Weah. So Tim, Austin, just transferred from PSG to Lille over in the French league. So again, a team that finished right behind them in second place. And it is a 5-year deal. I think estimated around 10 million. I think that was disclosed. But all in all, seems like a really exciting move for a promising attacker.
Yeah, Lille had a really exciting team last year with Nicolas Pepe, Jonathan Akone, some other players like that, Rafael Leal. And it looks like some of them will be moving on this summer. So definitely kind of, opens the door for Tim Weah coming right in. And, hopefully we see him play big minutes.
Completely agree, Austin. And great points you brought up there, too, because Pepe just looks like he is obviously going somewhere, maybe Arsenal rumored, things like that, but definitely to a top club. And he was kind of the main, firepower behind their attack, Austin, a team that loves to attack, and actually scored 68 goals, which is second in the league. So that's pretty exciting numbers there. And then, like you mentioned as well, Rafael, I think, completed to AC Milan, which we just looked up. So that does kind of open up a spot for Tim Weah, and let's see if he can take advantage of it.
Yeah. Lille's a good team. I think even without those players, they have a lot of good midfielders. They're a very young team and a team that is, constantly trying to take their game to the next level. So, I think that's a perfect environment for Tim to get integrated in, and hopefully, it reaps benefits for us at the national team level.
Completely agree, Austin. And I know from Tim Weah's perspective, I think there was an interview that came out, or maybe it was during the press conference, but he just thought that Lille made the most sense to him. It is the second team in France right behind PSG. They're a Champions League club. He seemed like he really wanted to test himself, and they had a plan kind of laid out for him specifically, I think he mentioned. So that all in all seems like really good words that he heard and the feedback that he got from the club, and that he was able to put the pen to paper there and cement his future.
Yeah, and I think it was a 5-year contract, right? Did you say that, Pat?
Yeah. So it's a 5-year deal. So that's pretty extensive and long there. So it'll be really exciting to see him kind of get integrated with the team. I know there are some brief videos and Twitter footage going around that he was doing pretty well in practice. And most recently, I think one of the Twitter accounts that might have been USMNT videos posted some highlights during Celta Vigo in that friendly. So he looked a little bit off pace in that one, but again, nothing too alarming just because it is preseason. You see teams kind of shuffling players in and out, and still kind of recovering from holidays and things like that. So I don't think that's anything to be alarmed of.
Yeah, that's a good point. I did catch some of their game against, I think it was like Braga a few weeks ago, and he looked quick. Lille altogether kind of looked out of sync, out of rhythm, and kind of like you said, Pat, a lot of players are coming back from from holiday and trying to, get fit or get back into shape. So, like you said, I really don't think it's anything to worry about. I do think it's good that, some of those players we talked about are moving on, because I think, Tim will have to be relied upon by Lil right from the start of the season to, at least provide them with rotation. And, if not that, then hopefully become a starter for them.
Yeah, I completely agree, Austin. I think all really valid points, because with Champions League now finishing so high, fans have the expectations of the club to keep that top form. And obviously with the other French tournaments, like you said, great time for rotation and for Tim to kind of be patient and just, seize the moment, seize the opportunity. And like I said, we both really think it'd be amazing to kind of see him be a consistent starter or, an impact player with his first year here.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is he's just got to get minutes. He's got to see the field, not only to play for the full national team, but just in the sense of gaining experience and, progressing as a player. He's got to see the field. So, let's hope Lil is that place for him.
That's right, Austin. Let's hope. And another exciting goalkeeper that we're going to shift to that made the move back to Germany.
That's right, and he's the future, but he's also the present, and that would be Zack Steffen. So Zack actually moved this summer to Fortuna Düsseldorf on loan from Man City, and he finally made that move over to Man City right before the Gold Cup, or I guess he left Columbus Crew right before the Gold Cup, and now is going back abroad, like you said, Pat. Going back to Germany, a place where we thought he was going to be. To start his professional career. That's where he was with SC Freiburg, and unfortunately, things just didn't really turn out. But he's back now at Dusseldorf, and we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, definitely, Austin. I know there's been and you can elaborate a little bit more on this, but there's been some injuries to the starting keeper, and it seems like Steffen might just be able to kind of start right away, essentially.
Yeah, that's exactly the situation. A lot of people thought coming in, and I think Dusseldorf kind of painted it that way too, is that Zack Steffen was coming in to be the starter. But the starting goalkeeper they had last year was still at the club. Granted, he is, I think, 35 right now. So, he's definitely kind of in the twilight of his career.
Yeah, up there for goalkeeper age, that's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you could still, be a pretty good goalkeeper into your late 30s. But, it's definitely not a guarantee. And, in this case, it wasn't a guarantee that Zack was going to be the starter. But, with this injury to Michael Rensing, who's that keeper, it sounds like he's going to be out for an extended period of time. So, it's kind of Zack Steffen's job to lose at the moment. And,
And I think that's perfect. Like you said, job to lose, just a great opportunity for some excellent goalkeeper competitions between him and Horvath, both playing in top flights in exciting European countries with Germany and Belgium respectively. And this will just push both of them to the limits here. And I think, like we said before, the Freiburg attempt, that I guess you could say almost failure in a way, definitely could leave some mental scars and things like that. And it'd be absolutely amazing to see Zack Steffen almost come and say, hey, forget what happened in the past here. I've made myself back in MLS, reinvented my career, solid keeper of the national team, and now I'm here to really, cause problems and be that guy in Germany.
Yeah. I mean, that's got to be his attitude. The Bundesliga is not kind. So if he has any, what's the right word I'm looking for, like trepidation or timidness, teams will sniff that out pretty quick. So he's got to, come in, start the season strong. I heard in his first preseason minutes I think he played the second half of a friendly like a week ago. He had like 9 saves in the game. So, or in the half even.
Wow.
That's insane.
He was busy.
Yeah, very busy. So, it sounds like he's making, good first impressions, getting out of the gate quick and strong. And that's, all we can really ask for. Zach's got to be in a good position all season to continue to be that number one goalkeeper for the U.S. So, there's a lot of pressure riding on this year, and let's hope, he can rise to the occasion. And it
believe in him.
seems like he has throughout his career. We've seen some pretty impressive performances in MLS from him in games that really matter. So I would bet my money on Zack Steffen.
Time to watch some Dusseldorf games.
Yeah, very true. They were a fun team to watch last year. Finished, I believe it was 10th in the Bundesliga, so mid-table. But they were a team that just got promoted, and have a lot of young, exciting players. So definitely gonna have to tune into some games for them this year, because they should be a good watch. But so now let's head over to England and talk about another player, Pat, that is going on loan this year and is looking to really kind of take his game to the next level. And who would that be, Pat?
That's right, Austin. That is none other than Matt Miazga, the U.S. men's national team center back. Miazga, we just got word, is that he will be being loaned out for the season from Chelsea and is back to Reading, where he spent the second half of last season on loan. So he kind of came in and started right away. I believe it was about like 17 games or so where he kind of just came in and dominated, won that spot, and helped Reading survive relegation there and kind of stay in that. I think they finished somewhere around the 17th, 18th spot, something like that. So a few spots back from safety, and it seems like they really wanted Miazga there. And yeah, Austin, I think all in all, this is a pretty solid move for him. Just a player that just needs to find consistent minutes and playing time, because as we covered before with Nantes and the other half loan there, it's just been kind of in and out since Vitesse, which he really shined in. And I think this is a great opportunity in a league that's very physical and competitive to just kind of build back his repertoire and really challenge for the following year to that Premier League level.
Yeah, he had a lot of success with Reading last year for that half season. So I think this is a good move. He's going back to a comfortable environment, which is something that he didn't really have going into last season, going over to Nantes. But he rose to the occasion last year at Reading. Championship football is hard to play in. There's a lot of games like we've covered, Pat. He's consistently going to be playing a game midweek and then a game on the weekend. So, mentally that's a good league, I feel, for him to kind of grow and really challenge himself. And, it's a very physical league. So I think he's only going to get stronger and become more of an aggressive player and really become sure of himself. So I kind of like this move. It's not the move maybe that some people would want, but I think it's a move that gives him a lot of, it's the right move at the right time for him. I think this is the type of move he needs right now.
Yeah, completely agree, Austin, just because he was another player who, if you're speaking in terms of U.S. men's national team, there was a point where, though the Gold Cup, at least I thought, maybe kind of Aaron Long has bumped him. They played together a little bit. I know John Brooks was out, things like that. But is Miazga almost on the outside looking in? And I know it's been kind of a rough time with, again, which I don't want to cover too much, but the Nantes and thing moving around. And ever since starting at Chelsea and having that fall against Swansea in the Premier League, don't want to go back that far to the timeline, but it just seems like a season-long loan here, like you said, in the Championship is the right move. He's 24 years old. He can still he's still young player here, and he can have a really solid year. And then during the next few years where he's really hitting his prime, could propel him up to, maybe a low or mid-table Premier League, ideally, would be amazing. But even maybe someone who's kind of vying for promotion. And we'll kind of see how he does with Reading, because he's certainly, when he came in the second half of the season, I remember a while ago, I don't have the points off the top of my head or the stats, but I think Reading picked up a ridiculous amount of points where goals allowed was so low as opposed to when he wasn't there for the first half of the season. So it'll be exciting to see, Austin, what they can do for a full season.
Yeah, and I think Reading are, desperate to put last season behind them. They've got some they got a decent amount of players coming in this summer. I can't think of any true names off the top of my head, but I know when we were looking up stuff about Andrija Novakovic, there's some players that Reading have either brought in on loan or purchased. So, they're trying to make sure they're not in that same situation this season. And I think they're going to be relying on Matt to be, their starting center back or one of their starting center backs all season long. So that's a good position to be in my opinion, for a player that needs to play minutes this year, and I think will be an integral part of our USMNT going forward. So.
Yeah, I mean, Austin hit the nail on the head. Nothing much more to say, but really make sure you guys will be tuning in to some championship games, and there's plenty of them, like we mentioned, to keep track of Matt Miazga. So all the best to him.
That's right. And to move on to Turkey, sorry to cut you off there, Pat.
That's okay.
We're going to take a look at Tyler Boyd's move to Beşiktaş. So, Tyler Boyd spent the spring on loan to Arungucu last year over in the Turkish Superliga. And that was a loan from Vitoria Guimames. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but
I feel like you're saying it right.
I'm pronouncing it how it looks, so it should be right. But that's a team over in the Portuguese league. And, Tyler did very well last year in the Turkish Superliga. Really took to that league, really was a dangerous winger, scored a good amount of goals, had some nice assists, and really caught the eye of Beşiktaş. So, this move was a $3 million move, and Beşiktaş will be playing in the Europa League next year. So, Pat, I think this move was, a slam dunk for him.
Yeah, I think it's a slam dunk as well. And like you said, the Turkish giant Beşiktaş, definitely a team with a lot of recognition and fans worldwide. I think it's actually a team that is, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, but it's a team that Loris Karius might have been on in the past.
I believe so. On the team in some capacity.
So just a funny side note, but they're a team that is able to bring in some high caliber players, across the globe. And again, this is a perfect spot for Boyd just to showcase himself. Like I said, to a really passionate fan base and get some more recognition and stay on the U.S. men's national team radar, because I think just kind of the skills and qualities that we're able to catch snippets of, he could really be a nice impact player going forward. Yeah,
it's a good point. He's got to play minutes. He's got to get on the field this year. So, if he can do that at Beşiktaş, that's a good team to, catch the eye of Greg Berhalter. And, that's got to be his goal here, is to just consistently get minutes this year, be a big part of the first team there. They have some exciting wingers, some older wingers too, such as like Quaresma, the former Portuguese international, and also Jermaine Lens from the Netherlands is another kind of high-profile winger that they have on their team. So, he'll have some competition going forward. So he's got to kind of raise his game to the next level. He did well last year, but he's got to, show he belongs at Beşiktaş. And, if he can do that, then I think he should be a lock, in my opinion, to, be in a 23-man roster for the USMNT going forward.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And regardless of the coefficients for FIFA and things like that, just because we all know, like we said, Beşiktaş is a solid team and playing in the Europa League, getting some exposure there too. This is, the perfect time for Boyd to seize the moment for club and country now going forward.
Yeah, and he looked good at the Gold Cup. I'm a little disappointed why we didn't, see more of him in those final games.
Yeah, I heard. Sorry to cut you off, Austin. I heard rumors though, maybe with the transfer coming for this move, there might have been a slight knock or hamstring or some kind of injury that he didn't want to, I guess, aggravate or make worse before this big move. But that was just a rumor. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. I don't know how I feel.
Yeah, we'll have to do some more digging on that. But just a rumor. I think I heard through the grapevine of Twitter.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, if he was injured, then it makes a little bit more sense. But yeah, let's hope this move, works out for him. Let's hope things go to plan, and we see him back in the red, white, and blue this fall. Because I would, I think, I would very much welcome that.
That's right, Austin. Right there with you.
Cool. So now let's move over to a player who unfortunately spent a lot of time with the second team for his club last year. And Pat, who is that?
And that is none other than Shaq Moore. So Shaq Moore actually finally got out of the black hole you could call Levante, where ever since he had an amazing, I guess you could say, pretty good performance against Messi in Barcelona, things were just not going right at the club, and I never really saw the field after that. And so, like we've kind of chronicled and covered throughout this show, he was with some clubs that had some financial disasters. Most recently, CF Reus, or Reus Deportivo in the second division, and they completely ran out of funds, weren't able to pay the players. That was just a whole mess, Austin. So unfortunately went back to Levante and was, again, like you said, playing with the second team. And now he's got this exciting move to CD Tenerife. So that is pretty exciting because he's able to kind of break free, get that clean slate. There's not too much competition for his outside back, the right back position. They have a Luis Perez, who is from another team. If I'm not pronouncing this right, I'm sorry, but Iche, who's also in the second division. But a team that also, Austin, has allowed the sixth most goals, last year. So definitely need some help on the defensive side. And again, comment as you want, but this is a perfect move for Shaq Moore to kind of revamp that career.
Yeah, I don't think a move to a La Liga team was really plausible. So, he had to kind of drop down a level. Spain's a country where he's very familiar with. And, honestly, he played well when he was on the field for Reus. Just unfortunately, like you said, Pat, their team folded mid-season and he wasn't able to secure a loan move in the winter. So, I think this is a good, really good move for him. Obviously we'd like to see him kind of get back to that first tier league status, but right now he's kind of got to prove himself to get minutes and continue to progress. And Tenerife offers him a really good opportunity. I think they were a team that used to play in La Liga a few years ago, so they're a team that's got some aspirations and have been to that top tier before. So it's not like a brand new team that doesn't really know what they're doing. They're just kind of trying to survive and stay in the Segunda Liga over there. But I think he made the move he had to do. He had to get out of Levante. He wasn't getting any playing time there, and while that was a club he had been at for some time now, he had to pull the trigger this summer and get out.
Yeah, and Austin, again, all good points because he is also at that crucial age where I believe he's 22. And again, we've seen some appearances. I think he might have, I could be wrong, either like 3 or 5 U.S. men's national team appearances already, where he's looked pretty comfortable or solid, able to hold his own. And someone that I thought could kind of be competing, maybe not that starting spot, but as a good backup, things like that. He seemed like a player that had really good promise, and I thought could break into that Levante team or be a low tier first division player in Spain. But again, like you said, maybe it's just time to drop down, revamp and kind of reinvent himself at the new club here at Tenerife and dominate there and see how he does. Because like you said, it is a team that I think looked up the capacity to have like 24,000 for the stadium, pretty big following. So a team that has, like you said, been there, it's been to the top in the past, and is a good club to kind of, again, stay in Spain and perform well, get those minutes.
Yeah, he's almost taking the DeAndre Yedlin route where, he drops down.
Good comparison.
And hopefully, Tenerife either get promoted or he gets sold to a La Liga team. I think he's a player that now is, taking a chance on himself, which honestly I think is a smart bet, from what we've seen of him. Like you said, Pat, in his few appearances he had for the USMNT, he didn't seem to play in a way that, really concerned us. He was a player that kind of came on. I believe he played against France even when we drew them right before the World Cup and held his own. He didn't really look out of place. He didn't get burned like some of the players we've seen come on, here recently in this past year where we've just been kind of tinkering. So I think there's something to be said in that. And I think, this year should be a good year for Shaq. You just got to get on the field, stay on the field, and not get hurt.
Yeah, Austin, completely agree. I think his luck is going to change here. So definitely, again, wish all the best for Shaq as he starts the new season here in Spain in the second division. But Austin, another player here, an attacker that departed from Schalke America.
Yeah, so that is Haji Wright. And Haji Wright, got some game time for Schalke's first team last year. Had his ups and downs. He scored a goal, in the Bundesliga, scored his first Bundesliga goal, but unfortunately wasn't able to stick around with their first team. Got demoted back to that 2 team there at Schalke, and really didn't look like he was going to have a place in that first team this upcoming season. So, with that being said, he had to kind of evaluate his options, and he ended up choosing to move on to VVV Venlo, which is a team over in the Eredivisie, and it's a team that Gideon Zalalem used to play at. I feel like there might have been another player recently who played at VVV Venlo for another American that played there. But this is a good move for Haji. Like I said, he wasn't going to play for Schalke. His options at the 2 Bundesliga level seemed to not really be there. There just didn't really seem to be like any teams that really wanted him. He had that loan spell that didn't really work out at Sandhausen 2 years ago. He also had a trial at Union Berlin, Pat, I think this past year, and it didn't really amount to anything. So, he kind of had to look outside of Germany, and what better place to look than the Eredivisie, to be honest. That's a place we've seen some American strikers thrive in the past. Most notably Josie Altidore, who scored, what was it, Pat, over 30 goals in one season?
Yeah, he killed it over there.
Yeah, which, now seems like forever ago. And, Aaron Johansson did really well over in the Eredivisie. Andrea Novakovic last year had a good season. So, Haji Wright, in going to the Eredivisie, I think Haji Wright has a great opportunity to get minutes, and I think it'll be a league where he can, try to get some traction at the pro level and just, consistently play, be on the field, and look to score goals for his team.
Yeah, Alison, completely agreed with obviously what everything you said. But yeah, I think it's important too, like almost just going to a new country, getting that fresh start in a different league, because like you said, Sandhausen wasn't cutting it out. Something wasn't working or clicking maybe in Germany. And again, it just seems like a really smart move to go to a place where, like you said, all Americans have had few past successes, a league that really does develop young players very well, especially some attackers and things like that. So it seems like Haji has all the resources and tools to succeed or learn, how to be a full first team pro here at VVV Venlo, and it'll be kind of exciting to see if he can execute. I think and be consistent is crucial for him. Yeah,
that's very true. Consistency is something that he definitely needs to work on. Even at that youth level, he was a striker that scored a lot of goals, but they kind of came in spurts. It was like games where he'd score, 2 or 3 goals, and then there'd be games where he didn't really make an impact. So, definitely consistency is one of the main things he needs to work on, and he just needs to become like more physical, Pat. I remember watching him, for Schalke last year in those games he came on, and he just seemed kind of timid. He seemed a little scared of the play and, what that pro level was like. So I think going to a league where, it's not as high of a level as the Bundesliga, I think that will allow him to gain some more confidence and really kind of find himself, find his type of game at this level, and, hopefully give him the confidence to go out and score a lot of goals there at Venlo and become a player that, hopefully we can see back in a USMNT shirt, very soon, whether that's for the U23s or, hey, even maybe at the full national team level one. So.
You can't write it off, Austin. I know he's had a decent start with Venlo, so hopefully he can continue that.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is he's got to play. He came to this league, the Eredivisie, to get those minutes and to kind of, get his career back on track, I would say. It kind of got back on track last year for that period of time, but it wasn't a sustained period of time, and it wasn't something that was going to amount to anything for him this year, until he got this move. So
yeah, would you almost sorry to cut you off. Would you almost say it's the final kind of European stand for him in a way?
That's a good question. I think it could be looked at that. If he really doesn't do well at Venlo and doesn't see the field, then I think his next move could probably be, MLS. I think there's not too many other leagues lower that he would be, or he would see as a viable option other than, MLS, to be honest. The other place in my mind after the Eredivisie, if he doesn't do well, would be a place kind of like Switzerland. One of those places where it's, a very a team that dominates kind of the league. How like Basel dominates Switzerland.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Austria would maybe be another place, but it's not like he'd be able to go to a place like Red Bull Salzburg with Jesse Marsch. He's already, I think, below that level, unfortunately. So, if he doesn't do well at Venlo this year, then maybe one of those leagues would be his next best option. But I think he needs to, see the field here, and hopefully we won't be even talking about that next year, in the winter. Let's hope he stays at Venlo for a good amount of time.
That's right, Austin. We, again, like all these Americans, we think Haji can be a force.
That's right. Bringing it back from 2014. But so now let's head back to England and cover another player who's going back to a club he was at last year. And who would that be, Pat?
That's right, Austin. And that is Antonee Robinson. So Antonee finally made that permanent move from Everton, the club he's been at for a while. Unfortunately, wasn't able to see the field for the first team and get an appearance. But he made that move to Wigan, which he was on loan with last year for the year. And it was a $2.2 million or euro move here. And just to kind of highlight and recap his season, which we've mentioned before, when he did go on loan to Wigan, he was able to make an impact right away and get that left back spot notched and help them, again, survive relegation. However, during that middle part of the season, which I've mentioned in the previous episodes, he had that serious injury where it kept him out for a good, I think it might have been like almost 20 games or so. Although the championship's a long season, and he was able to play, I think I have it here, he had 26 appearances, but he did miss a solid 15 or 20 games, something around that range. So he was able to kind of come back and finish the second half of the season strong. And again, I think this is ultimately a good move because he wasn't seeing time. Jack Yelkin, I know a few other players that they had. I think Lucas Digne maybe might have been in that spot. And it just seemed almost inevitable that he was not going to make it at Everton.
Leighton Baines.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's who I was thinking of.
Club legend.
Club legend, Austin. So didn't seem like Antonee was going to break in anytime soon, and he's another player that really needs to see minutes. This is a crucial time for him, being in the early 20s stage, and to kind of stay a part of the U.S. men's national team picture, he needs to be playing some serious minutes here.
Yeah, and Wigan seemed to, value him and think he was a good player for them. He did a lot of good things going forward. He's still pretty raw defensively. That's the one area of his game that he, really needs to kind of work on and hone. But, Wigan was really pleased with his performance last year. So it's good to kind of see him go to an environment where he's going to be valued. That's always good in my opinion.
Yeah, excellent points. And which is funny that some of his deficiencies have been defensively attacking. He's brilliant in and going forward and taking people one-on-one. And it'll be really interesting to see how the Wigan season and Antonee's turns out, because Wigan did give up, I think it was 64 goals in 46 games, which is a pretty intense amount of, or serious amount of goals there, high volume. So you definitely want to see that number drop. And if Antonee can stay healthy for the season, work on some of those one-on-one defensive battles, you're closing down people at crosses and making sure you're not kind of sticking a a foot out and in the wrong time getting burned, which we've unfortunately have seen. It'll be really exciting to see him work on those and advance and develop his game in the championship, because he's another player, Austin, I really think at a spot where we need some good players. And I would have liked to see him on the Gold Cup roster just to kind of get back, I guess you could say, in Berhalter's good graces here.
Yeah, and I think he would have been a better substitution for instead of Daniel Lovitz in that Mexican game.
Yeah, I think we're both on the same page there.
But yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think Antonee is in a good place and will be set up pretty well for this year. It's the ball's kind of in his court. So
that's right. So a lot of players to keep watching in the championship, Austin, and good luck to Antonee. And I know we're going to shift away from a player who recently departed from England and went back to the MLS.
Yeah. So as we've been doing, in all our episodes, we want to tell you guys about players we no longer will be covering. And today that would be Emerson Hyndman. So Emerson's going to Atlanta United on a loan from Bournemouth, but there is an option to buy. And it seems pretty likely that Atlanta United's going to, take them up on that offer, especially since he's taken to Atlanta pretty well. So just want to let you guys know about that. Emerson had, his struggles at Bournemouth, getting playing time. It didn't really happen in the spring this year. I think he only featured in one game. Didn't have the greatest of loan moves over to Hibernian in the fall. So, his options were kind of limited. It didn't seem like he was ever really going to get that time at Bournemouth and become a Premier League player. So it seemed like, now was the best time to kind of move back home and move to the MLS. I don't want to freak out anyone out there, upset anyone. But yeah, it's a good move for him because Atlanta United's a top team in MLS, and they're a team that, has a plan for him. So that's always good. He could have moved to a team like, right now they're doing well, but I was going to say the New England Revolution or a team like that.
Yeah, and like you said, Austin, Atlanta just seems to have a different kind of caliber, and they have some players that have come from other countries and different leagues and have really dominated MLS and then went over. I think Miguel Almiron's a good example, and some other players that I feel like really have potential to kind of go back into Europe and shine. So I think this is just a good move all in all. I think we're both maybe on the same page here that Emerson might be an MLS lifer, he could say the term. It'd be great, obviously, to see him advance and get back in Europe. But again, like you said, Atlanta's not a bad spot to be in.
Yeah, and I think what you're trying to say is that we both think he's a very good MLS player. We think he's a player that can kind of model himself after like a Benny Feilhaber, a player who's, played abroad, taken all the things he's learned from abroad and kind of become a star for his team in MLS and become like a designated player in a sense. That would be the goal for Emerson if he stays in MLS, is to kind of, cash in and become a team's DP and kind of be that American star in MLS. So
yeah. And
I don't think that's a bad career path or, career plan.
Completely agree. And no disrespect, no discrediting MLS. It's a great league, and he could still make a huge impact with the national team. But yeah, like you said, Austin, it seems like, just being back here and back in the United States, especially from this troubling situation at Bournemouth that we saw, just seems like he's almost freed and ready to kind of relax and play the football or soccer that he wants to play.
Yeah. I mean, he's still pretty young. He's 23, I believe, at the moment. So, he's got some growing and maturing still left to do in his game. But, both of us, while we think he could be a very good MLS player, we're still not certain he's going to be, someone the USMNT ever really relies upon. And it kind of is what it is at this point. He was, in my opinion, one of the trailblazers who, kind of tried to chart his path over in England for Fulham, broke out at a young age, was a player that, at the time was only one of the only players playing abroad at that age. So, I will always kind of value him for that. I think he was a player that kind of spurned other players to go on and make the move abroad. And I think that's, if that's his legacy and he, stays in MLS, then I think that's, a great legacy to leave.
Yeah, well said, Austin. Well said.
I didn't want to get all philosophical there for you. Yeah. So now let's move over to our final player in this jam-packed transfer episode. And who would that be, Pat?
And that would be Matthew Olosunde, who just made the move from Manchester United, where he spent the last 3 years, and then is now at Rotherham United in England's third division, League One, with Lyndon Gooch. I think it's just for Olosunde, he had just kind of a rough time at Man United, breaking into that first team, mainly with the U23s there on the reserve side, had some serious injury issues as well, which was a big setback. And it just seemed like, again, a player who his time was kind of, coming up at Man United, a club that's extremely hard to break in. And they let the contract run out, gave him time to choose where he wanted to go and kind of kickstart his career because, again, he's another very versatile defender who can play center back as well as right back in any of those kinds of positions. So he's very flexible in that way, very athletic player who, really could be a good professional for a first team somewhere. And this seems like a good place to reinvent himself. Rotherham actually was a championship club who was relegated this past year, so they dropped into the third tier here. But nonetheless, maybe they're vying for a championship spot here, and Olosunde could be a huge part of that movement.
Yeah, unfortunately it didn't work out for him at Man United. Injuries did definitely play a part. But it was never really going to work out. Over the past year or two, we could kind of see that career path playing out, and he was forced to make this move. They didn't renew his contract, so the biggest goal for him this year is to get on the field, play consistent minutes, prove himself in League One. Because if he can't do that, then maybe coming back to MLS or USL at that point, those would kind of be his only options. So
yeah,
this is definitely a move now for Matt, where it's kind of a now or never. It's kind of time for him to show that he can be a professional soccer player and deal with the daily rigors and kind of take his game to that next level, stand out. So we'll see what happens, Pat. We'll be there charting it every single step of the way. So.
That's right, Austin. So, like you said, a lot of these players just need these minutes, and it's do or die or now or never for some of these young players that we've been talking to that are reaching their early 20s here and mid 20s. So, again, Olosunde and the rest of them, we hope they can do big things here.
Yeah. So that's all for this part of our transfer episode. Now let's head over to Quick Kicks.
All right, guys. So it's a brand new season here at YAA. But this is still your favorite part of the show, and it's none other than Quick Kicks.
So you could test Dwayne Miller. It's Altidore over the wall, and that one is in! Josie Altidore from a long way out. The opening goal for the United States.
All right, guys. So to start off Season 3 of Quick Kicks, we're going to head over to the Netherlands, where an exciting debut just occurred for Sergino Dest. For Ajax, he made his first team debut and started in left back and played the full 90 as Ajax beat PSV 2-0 in the Dutch Super Cup.
Nice. That's big. And, going over to Denmark, Emmanuel Sabbi scored yet again for Hobro in their 2-2 draw with Randers this weekend. So Emmanuel Sabbi keeps on scoring.
That's right. Can't stop, won't stop, Austin. And heading over to Belgium here, one of my favorite keepers, Ethan Horvath, started for the opener for Club Brugge and played the full 90 in a 3-1 win against Waasland Beveren. So congrats to Ethan there.
Nice. And unfortunately, Julian Green started and played all 90 minutes in Greuther Fürth's 2-0 loss to Erzgebirge Aue in the start of the 2 Bundesliga this past weekend. So thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel down below.
And as always, make sure you follow our social media pages, Instagram, which our new page, a new handle, which is below, as well as Twitter. We're always providing quality content, especially with all these transfers, which we covered, as well as the start of the season here.
That's right. And there's still maybe some more transfers coming up. So make sure to keep your eyes out for all those updates. We'll be putting them out on Instagram right as they happen. And yeah, we'll be sure to talk about them in any episode we have this upcoming season. So a lot of things to be excited about. Christian Pulisic is now at Chelsea, getting good game time under Frank Lampard. So that's always exciting.
That's right, Austin. We have a full season here for Tyler Adams at RB Leipzig, and Sargent hopefully making a case to break through, and like we covered, Timo or Tim Weah. So many players to be excited for. We have those upcoming Nations League games, you could say, for the qualifiers in the fall. So plenty to be excited for, because we're all working towards one thing.
That's right. That's a great segue. And that one thing would be, one day we will win the World Cup.